What if seeing had nothing to do with your eyes? Now, to be clear, because on this podcast, we talk about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe and all kinds of intuitive abilities. What I'm talking about is seeing physical reality has nothing to do with your physical eyes. This episode's guest, I'm talking to someone who has trained hundreds of people, including people that are blind or don't have eyeballs, how to see through a blindfold. And she says that it's just the beginning.
Almost overnight will transition into
Yes.
a more beautiful world.
Yes.
Every human being attuned and aligned with truth and coherent and peaceful in our interactions with each other, able to access a higher level of cosmic wisdom while embodied in the physical earth plane. What a beautiful world we would create.
Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr. Welcome to this episode. I'm excited to bring to you the conversation that I had with Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan. Dr. Edith is a consciousness and human potential pioneer, and she is the person behind the Luminous Blindfold Training programs. And if you haven't heard of blindfold vision, it's also called Mindsight. And wow, it's really exciting. You might want to go down the rabbit hole after this because you'll see some people like Dalia Burgoin, who's actually demonstrating how they have trained hundreds of kids and adults to perceive color, shapes, and even words to read while completely blindfolded, even multiple shields of blocking their physical vision. So, in this conversation, we get into some of the science. We talk about skeptics. We talk about how it might connect with remote viewing and telepathy. And Dr. Edith shares with us why she thinks that this world has a lot more to it. It's not just a parlor trick, it's actually how we're changing reality. And now I want to share as we dive in that I work a lot with the astral senses, astral projection, also astral communication, things like dual consciousness, bilocation, and telepathy. Telepathy is the foundation of all intuitive abilities. And telepathy and seeing, whether it's clairvoyantly or perceiving physical reality without the benefit of your eyes, whatever might be local to you, or remote viewing. Remote viewing is something that I work in and I actually teach. I really see this as your astral senses, your astral body being able to do the sensing and the movement, and it can do this without the limitation of your physical body. And what we discover in this conversation, as Dr. Edith is sharing how it has been scientifically measured what is happening within or behind the blindfold, and how that does not answer why people can see. It's not peaking, it's not leaking, that it actually is the fact that light is not limited by our physical senses. We are not limited by our physical senses or our physical reality. And light doesn't need us to permit it or not. So here is my conversation with Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan. Well, I am so excited to bring this conversation. Well, I'll be selfishly honest to myself as well as to everyone listening to the Charm Life podcast. I have with me Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, who is a consciousness and human potential pioneer. And she is known for the Luminous Blindfold Training programs. Welcome, Dr. Edith.
Trisha, I'm so happy to be here. You look radiant and glorious as always. And
Thank you.
for the audience, I just love that you have a very advanced, evolved, and sophisticated audience. So we can go really deep really quickly in this conversation.
I think so. Yes, we do get a lot of like deep dive questions. And it's also, I think it's a just relevant of where we are collectively. I know that we have some people who are barely scratching the surface and maybe have some beliefs in their world, their paradigm can't accept some things like, our human abilities, which are natural but seem extraordinary. But there's also a lot of people taking big leaps in those awarenesses. And you're, again, like I said in the intro there, you're a pioneer of that. You tell us will you start and tell us what the Luminous Blindfold Training is? Because this is you guys, I mean, I can't I'm gonna just stammer if I try to gush anymore. Go ahead, please, Doctor
Okay, I'll do my best because there's profound implications of this work and it's
Mhm,
not what it seems on the surface.
mhm.
So let me start by defining what is blindfold vision, also known as mindsight. So there's this innate capacity that all human beings have to perceive beyond the physical eyes. So we put on blindfolds and we go through a sequence of practices and then we can see through the blindfold. So it's often called extraocular vision, it's called blindfold vision, it's called mindsight, it's called seeing without eyes or seeing beyond eyes. It's got many names, but this capacity that all human beings have, just like swimming, you could go and take some lessons and learn how to swim. You could go through a sequence of practices, and different people have different proclivities for it. Some people are inclined to be Olympic swimmers. Some people just like to learn to swim so you can enjoy a nice day at the beach, but everybody can learn. So that's what we've discovered, this capacity to see completely blindfolded is a capacity that we all have. And it's not just the seeing part. We're tapping into blindfolded touch sense, blindfolded intuitive smell, intuitive hearing, intuitive taste, intuitive just a hovering sense. Also, the intuitive knowing sense. All of these capacities, there's a methodology now that is very refined, very mature, very consistently reliable to activate these dormant capacities that we all have.
I have to say, I usually go with music, but I say almost the exact same thing, that everyone can you can listen to music and that's being musical, or you could learn to play an instrument or sing, and you know what I mean? That it's really just something you can develop, or you can leave it dormant, and can you imagine a life without music? That's kind of how we're living without these abilities, these capacities that are natural to us. I think
Yes,
that's how we're living, without something so beautiful, valuable, exciting, you know?
agreed.
I am fascinated with a few things. First of all, I'm not a skeptic. I've seen it and I've also experienced it. I actually started with telepathy and then a mediumship and different things like that. Remote viewing came directly out of my animal communication, especially. And then I started to just work with Mindsight a bit, especially since I met you several months ago. Now, I'm really excited to take a training sometime soon. But what I am fascinated by is because someone who is a skeptic, I actually wish I'll just tell you this. Dalia Burgoin, who you work with, you are friends with,
Yes.
and Dalia is amazing. Y'all can find now you can find tons of podcasts and videos that Dalia is guesting on and demonstrating these abilities. My husband's not really that much of a skeptic. He knows what I do, and he's seen a lot of amazing things. But I showed him Dahlia on a podcast being able to read something with quadruple blindfolds on. And he's like, "Yeah, but no one's really gonna be able to accept that because it's a video." And you know what I mean? And he goes, "You know, we know that David Blaine was, pulling tricks on us." I was like, "No, but he literally David Blaine is a magician. He's literally an illusionist. He's literally saying, 'I'm tricking you, and you're supposed to not be able to find out.'" And, so how do you come up against skeptics? People that say, "Well, I'm sure you're faking it. I'm sure it's not true," besides training them. And can you train a skeptic? Sorry, 17 questions right there, but I'm so excited to
Those are all brilliant questions, and I ask all the same questions
Mhm,
myself. So there's a few things there. The first thing is that even if the exposure plants a seed for someone that's not ready for it,
mhm.
but it gets them into a curiosity, I think is job well done on our part to just
Yeah.
get people like, I wonder,
Mhm.
is it possible? All these kinds of questions. And then there are wonderful scientific researchers that are taking on those kinds of aspects of this work. So, for example, our good friend and colleague, John Chavez, he put together a wonderful documentary called 1000 Blindfolds. So, highly recommend everybody listening to check out 1000 Blindfolds. It's a short documentary, about 50 minutes. It's not like super long,
Mhm.
and it breaks this down really beautifully. So Dahlia and we collaborate on the adult workshops, and I've also trained hundreds of kids and families in this ability. So in our adult workshops, we have a lot of even the not super. Let's see. There's the closed-minded skeptics and there's the open-minded skeptics. So
Mhm.
we get the open-minded skeptics even at our workshops. And they ask very good questions like, how do I know if I'm really using my Mindsight? Well, how do I know for sure that none of us are peeking? And all these kind of questions, right? So, Dalia and I have this dear friend and colleague, Sean Jordan, who is an adult man who doesn't have physical eyeballs. And he's been doing really deep trainings with Dalia. And Dalia has refined this protocol for working with blind adults. Adults, first of all, they're adults. And second of all, they don't have physical eyeballs. So there's a whole
So they're not peeking.
protocol. They're not peeking. And
Right.
there's a whole protocol for working with adults, and
Mhm,
sometimes these adults, they have been blind since they were a child. So for
mhm.
to progress them to reading requires literally teaching them the ABCs and one, two, threes. So they describe like, okay, this looks like a circle but missing a part. That was the C, right? Oh, this is
Wow.
a triangle with a line in the middle. Okay, I know that that's an A. So to
Wow.
witness that progression gives us total confidence that they are reading. They see the shapes, but they have to slow it down to actually say, is this a C or is it an F or is it a B? Like they have to describe the shape and then they need your help to remember which letter it is and so on.
Wow. That's
Right, so to
beautiful.
witness that, you're like, "Okay, this is a very real phenomena that I'm
Yeah.
seeing."
Yeah.
And for some of these blind adults, it's a whole progression to teach them colors from scratch,
Mhm.
to go from white light to red, or white light to blue, white light and yellow, to help them recognize, "Oh, red looks like this. This is red," almost like a baby.
Yeah,
This
learning a
is
new
red, this
language.
is yellow, this is blue. This seems like a blend of yellow and blue, and we're like, "That's actually green." It's like, "Okay, I get it now, green looks like this." So we're teaching that alphabet of colors and shapes and all of that, a whole progression, and witnessing all of that gives you deep confidence that there is a very real phenomena with the progression of steps that we're witnessing in real time. So in the documentary, the piece that I'd love the audience to focus on is that a lot of people say, well, is it completely dark inside the blindfold? If it's pitch black, how is it possible they're seeing? Are they really seeing? Is it a visual experience? What's going on there? So the scientists put lux meters inside the blindfold to measure how much light is inside the blindfold. And so we discovered that there is actually a little bit of leakage of light because our subjective experience as a participant is that we put on the blindfold in the beginning is pitch black. But then as you adjust, you're like, oh, there is a little bit of leakage of light from the periphery. Am I
Mhm.
cheating? Your mind might say that. But that leakage of light gets bigger and bigger. And then now different spots start opening up. And at some point, parts of the blindfold literally just look see through to you. So it's like, wait, am I cheating? Or is the
Oh,
mask too loose? Did the mask just fly off my face? What is going on? You have the subjective experience. So for the scientists to actually put lux meters inside a subject to measure how much light is inside the blindfold, as they say, oh, that's red, that's a circle, that's a triangle, that's an A, that's a B, or that's a E, or, as they report seeing things, to actually have measurements of how much light is inside the blindfold is very interesting.
mhm,
So, what they discovered is that inside the blindfold, there is measurable leakage of light. It
mhm.
is not completely dark. However, the quantity of light is something like 0.005 lux, somewhere in that order of magnitude. It's a teensy amount. Comparatively speaking, it's been scientifically established that you can, with your physical eyes, see colors if there's like 5 lux of light. And you can see shapes with hundreds of lux of light. You can read tiny fine print with thousands of lux of light. That's been established with the physical eyesight. So, how is it that people are seeing color, seeing shape, and reading words with 0.005 lux of light? So, that suggests that this is some alternative perception that in the documentary they suggested. Let's call this minimal light perception training. It's not completely pitch black. To be a purist about it, it's not a complete blindfold, but with the tinsy amount of light leakage that you're able to perceive so much information, there's a different order of magnitude of human possibility that this is definitely tapping us into.
What about the triple and quadruple blindfolds? Like I've seen Dalia and other Mindsight practitioners put like, 2 blinds, like 3 or 4 blindfolds on. Is there leakage there? Or are you saying that leakage is actually the tiniest bit of leakage which should not facilitate regular sight with your eyeballs? The leakage actually is a component that is facilitating the
So
limited
there's a this
luminosity?
is where is we're starting to refine our understanding of how this works. So this is a snapshot in time as of August 2026.
Okay.
We're all pioneering this stuff and coming to a new understanding of how human perception works. This
Mhm,
is actually quite new. So um, if if a student has trouble seeing,
mhm.
there's different ways in which we enhance the lighting. For example, we take the student outside in natural sunlight. It's easier for them to perceive light, visual information, outdoor natural light, or with a flashlight aiming at the thing that they're trying to see to brighten and illuminate the piece of paper or whatever they're trying to see. So that suggests that this ability to see visually is a light sensing ability.
Mhm.
Exactly how it works, we're still trying to study and understand. But so far, we've consistently found that the brighter the lighting, the same mass with the same tightness, as you brighten the light, people perceive clearer and easier. So we've also found that if someone's struggling to perceive, we might loosen the mass a little bit. And then you might say, oh, is that cheating? Yes and no. As you loosen the mass and someone's like, wait, I'm seeing colors. Yes. What color is that? Yes. What color is that? And they start getting a few in a row, they get into a flow. Then it's like, okay, now tighten the mass. And then they tighten the mass and they're like, wait a minute, I'm still seeing the same, even though I way tightened it down now. It's like, okay, we turn on that perception window, then
Yeah,
you can tighten the mask. So it's nuance. And
yeah.
people who are so busy thinking about are you cheating or not
Mhm.
is missing out on the fact that just like in swimming, sometimes someone just starts swimming. Sometimes you need to give them floaties. Once they get into the flow, take off the floaty and they're swimming.
Right.
So
Right.
we don't busy ourselves with this, like, are they cheating? It's
Yeah.
just what is going to progress them from one step to the next to the next. Our understanding after all these thousands of cases is that human beings can do this. We're absolutely confident. It's just a matter of how can we give them the progression of practices to progress them, just like with exercising any muscles. If you force someone to go too far too quickly, you could
Mhm.
discourage them or injure them.
Right.
You want to progress gradually, lovingly, step by step by step.
What I'm getting here is that light, which is, like this, I think light is the smallest quantizable particle. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I believe. But light is not limited to our eyeballs. Like our eyeballs don't they don't have authority over filtering out light. I mean, we can disregard what we perceive. We can choose to disregard our certain capacities to perceive, but light doesn't need our eyeballs in
Yeah,
order to
that and thank you. Forgive me
Mhm.
for interrupting. I get so
Yeah.
excited. There's so much to debrief with you guys.
Please
So,
interrupt.
one piece that we've discovered is that those mindfold blindfolds that most of us use, they have a hard plastic and they
Mhm,
have foam cushioning inside with a cutout so your eyes
mhm.
can open and close freely inside.
I
But they're
usually leave
quite
mine
big.
closed. I mean, just 'cause it's more comfortable. Yeah,
Okay,
so yeah, uh-huh.
yes, so you can train yourself eyes open or eyes closed. That's a
Okay,
very popular question. Is this done
okay.
with eyes open or eyes closed? But if you train yourself eyes closed, once you've activated that ability, you need to also train yourself to have a trigger to turn it off so that you can go to sleep
Oh.
at night,
Oh, yeah, sure, for sure.
right? Whereas, like, normally you just used to like close your eyes and go to sleep. So
Mhm,
usually we train eyes open
Mhm.
And
Okay.
also, people are more adapted to, oh, when my eyes are open, I'm looking at things. When my
Mhm.
eyes close, I go inward more and, don't try to look, just kind of rest
Mm.
myself.
Mhm.
Most
Okay.
people are and trained that way. But if you train yourself to see eyes closed, and we do some of these activities, eyes closed and eyes open, to compare and contrast
Mhm.
in our workshops. But with that eyes closed, what's nice is that if your eyes are closed and you're still perceiving visual information, your monkey mind that goes like, "Am I cheating? Am I like, has the mask gotten too loose? Why am I seeing all this stuff?" It helps you convince yourself,
I
but
see.
you can equally train eyes open or eyes closed.
So as an intuitive, using intuitive sight, psychic sight in seeing, other dimensions or even other locations, using my astral sight, which is the way I think about all of this, I did have to train myself when I first opened up those abilities, I had to train myself to turn it off in order to go to
Yes.
sleep, and some people don't. That's it's something that I train people on when I'm teaching them mediumship or opening their intuitive abilities, is that you do get to have your own business hours, turn it off and on, and I'm getting from this that if I train with my eyes closed, I'm gonna have to add a different step because I'm already trained. Well, I don't know. I guess I could
Oh,
go
you
either
can
way.
make it little triggers, like
Yeah,
like Dahlia does different hand gestures, or like a different way of like
sure.
stretching or wiggling your eyebrows or something to trigger to your body. We're
Mhm.
gonna look. Okay, we're gonna
Right.
turn it on, turn it off. But I wanted to complete the previous thought about the blindfolds,
Mhm,
which is really relevant to what you were saying about this like sensing of light from different parts of the body.
mhm,
What we've discovered is that the Mindfold is a really nice, comfortable, foamy setup, so you can open or close your eyes while it's like all covered with this foam. But it's quite big, and a big part of your face is covered up.
mhm,
So people say, "Oh, should I switch to other masks?" And when we switch over to other styles of masks, once you've activated your initial ability and stabilized, people can switch to all kinds of other masks and still have the ability, but their perception is clearer and brighter and bigger the smaller the mass is,
mm.
including that manta mask. Have you seen those manta masks? They
Uh,
have a really nice cushioned cup and then a big strip of soft fabric
okay. I'm gonna have to get one of those.
Velcroed on, and it seals the eyeballs even better than the Mindfold. It's called the Manta Mask,
Okay.
but it exposes a huge chunk of your forehead and your face so
Mm,
that a lot more of your face and head is exposed to the visual light information.
mhm,
And almost every single student have told us, "Oh my god, this is so easy. Everything is so bright and clear with this one." So that suggests that the more of your skin is exposed to that
mhm,
light, the easier this ability is. And then on the converse, because this topic has gotten popular, a lot of people are like, "Well, how do you know for sure people aren't cheating with this
mhm,
and that?" So it's a progression of step to gradually extend the mask by putting tape and tape and tape, and some of us put a shield over it, and a bigger and bigger shield. We don't recommend jumping right to a giant shield in front, but actually to progress to more and more and more of it covered.
mhm,
And our students, especially our children that experiment with this, we have an advanced program where our children are exploring all these human pioneering possibilities. The children consistently tell us that the more we block out, the smaller the windows become, or
mhm,
sometimes they become blurrier, and it's almost like starting over. And
mm,
as they retrain themselves, they can get the windows back, but it's
mhm,
more advanced.
mhm,
And the more you block the light in front, the more they naturally 360-degree perceive behind them, because there's more light coming through behind their head. And now suddenly they have high accuracy seeing behind their head because you're covering the front. So all of that is just different pieces of evidence that suggest that this mindsight blindfold vision is some kind of a light sensing ability, which as it progresses, eventually it bleeds into remote sensing and remote viewing.
mhm,
Because as you advance, you perceive up close information and further and further and further and further. And then gradually you're putting stuff on the other side of the wall. and the
Yeah.
kids are seeing or sensing through the wall, then in the other part of the house, and then jumping across the world. And so this blindfold vision becomes a very methodical progression of activities that naturally leads to remote viewing or remote sensing or just remote knowing.
Mhm. Do you know who Lynn Buchanan is?
Yes.
Yes, and I just watched a 3-hour podcast, of him on someone's podcast, and I would be fascinated to so remote excuse me, Lynn Buchanan is a famous remote viewer. He worked, for the US government for decades as a remote viewer, and I've heard some people say that, like Mindsight or seers, and remote viewers kinda think that they don't do the other technique. And I'm like, I see them as very much of a crossover. But of
Yeah.
course, I started with remote viewing and I was trained in remote viewing by animals, yeah, by telepathically communicating with animals and then empathically dropping into where they were and then them, letting me use their eyes to be able to
Uh-huh.
see. And now I don't, and now I can, they just basically trained me how to send my consciousness, the dual consciousness to be able to perceive in other places. So, what do you think the overlap is between Mindsight and remote viewing? Do you think one precedes the other necessarily, or what is the overlap or the distinctions, if
Yeah,
any?
good question. There's definitely an overlap there. I can only speak from my own direct experience, which is the not just myself, but hundreds of kids and families, and now the adults that we're training, the seeing the progression of steps from what is immediately verifiable. Because if you're looking at colors and shapes right in front of you, the person right next to you can just play games with you and instantly can verify, did I get it correct or incorrect? But
Mhm,
with all these skills, the underlying meta skill that we're studying and practicing is, what does it feel like to guess? And what does it feel like to know?
mhm.
So
Yes.
a lot of people say, is this intuitive training? It's like many of us, I'm sure 100% of your audience, you listen to your intuitive hunch about things.
Mhm,
But now we're going beyond intuitive hunch into knowing,
mhm.
to get to the point where it's so well skilled, like with the mindsight, that you start getting 2 or 3 correct and then 1 incorrect, and we always celebrate whether it's correct or incorrect. We always celebrate and have lots of fun in the process. No being so hard on ourselves and
Yeah,
trying so hard, because it's a flow state that we're
yeah.
in. So we celebrate when it's correct, we celebrate what is incorrect. And if it's correct, it's like, yes, remember that feeling. How
Yes.
did you know? There's a knowing that you tapped
Mhm,
into. How does the knowing show up for your body and your physiology? It
mhm.
shows up in a certain way. Pay attention to that. If you get it incorrect, very often it's because people have precognition and they jump to the next color, next shape in the pile. So we're like, okay,
Yeah,
notice that you just got 4 in a row correct for the next one. It
yeah.
was incorrect, but it was always the next one. So clearly you're tapping into something. Remember that feeling. Now slow your breathing rhythm right down and come back to this present moment.
Mhm.
What color is this? Boom, they get it correct. Okay, what color is this? Boom, they get it correct. They get 5, 6, 8, 10 in a row, maybe 20 in a row. And then you get them rapid fire. It's like, okay, you just got 20 colors in a row. That was statistical chance is way smaller than 1 in a million to get, 20 colors in a row correct. You're not guessing there. You knew it. What
Mhm,
does that feel like? So
mhm.
you get to that point where you're so attuned to that state that it's 100% correct now. It's not 70%, 80%. It's not a hunch. It's a knowing. Now, can we apply that? Is for some reason easier to perceive with something up close that our face and cheek and our hands can touch. It's just easier for us to get a lot of information. And many people are seeing and smelling and tasting and hearing and touching and feeling the color or the shape. And all of that information builds up your confidence. Now, as we move that piece of paper further and further and further, you're stretching your abilities. That muscle has to get stronger. It becomes more subtle. You train yourself so that the subtle no longer feels so subtle. And gradually it
Mhm.
progresses into you're in the other room and so on. But it's the same skill of distinguishing when I'm guessing or overthinking, when I have a hunch. Because in the beginning, it's like, it feels like bluish green, it feels like yellowish orange. It's like, okay, you're getting closer. You have the hunch. Okay, what is it? Is forest green, it's lime green, it's aquamarine blue. You get really precise and accurate like this. And now that skill, you cultivate that as you go further and further. You cultivate that from the sides here, 360-degree, behind your head, under the table, into the other room. It's the same skill. It just starts to become more advanced as you take that skill to different angles and locations of perception a little bit further and further and further and further until you the goal is to have spherical 360-degree perception and to be just as confident with something up close that you can touch and smell and see and taste, and gradually expand that capacity of sensing, feeling, knowing, seeing to further and further locations all across the world and into the cosmos.
So amazing. I have a student, so I train in remote viewing as well as telepathy and directed energy influence, and we just did two practice days of remote viewing, and one student, she consistently is precognitive, and she's, like, getting the next one. I'm like, there's a reveal she goes and she was like one, she was like, "I I was just like I thought it was your friend's house." It was literally the next target I was presenting, and it wasn't a house that was this target. It was like an object or something. And so it's awesome and it's exciting, and we're like, "Okay, but we're doing plyometrics here. We want isometrics." So we're gonna
Yeah.
isolate precognition and then also isolate remote viewing what is present for this target, and just getting more refined, exactly as you said. This is what you're saying too, to make the subtle more distinctive is exactly what I talk about in all of my training with animals, because teaching animal communication, I suggest to people that they actually begin their animal communication practice, like to telepathically communicate with animals who are not their family, because it will feel more distinctive even though it's subtle. Because your own animals are attached to you all the time. You love them so much, you're already perceiving so fluidly, knowing when they're hungry, knowing when they're gonna come, and even though you're not conscious necessarily of those subtleties. But then you practice it, you isolate it with a foreign voice, narrative voice,
Mhm.
and then you replay the feeling tone, or like you said, you just anchor in your attention to how that process happened, whether I was guessing or in my mind, with my head, or if I was really genuinely perceiving. And it just takes repetition, right? It's just isometric training. It's doing the reps, but having fun while you're doing it so that you don't get into your head too much.
Yeah, that's the secret to success. So
Mhm,
there's a few with our kids program, we especially chunk it down to simple things like, first of all, we're just here playing games, even though these
mhm.
are like very advanced meditative games, but
Yeah,
the kids are just having fun.
yeah,
So we remind them, kids, we're going to show you some colors and later some shapes and different things. You might be surprised to know that we're not worried at all about whether you get it correct or incorrect. We
yeah,
just want to play. And
yeah.
then when you get it correct, we want to notice what that feels like.
Mhm.
When you get it incorrect, is it because you're tapping into your superpower to see into the future? We have some kids that are like, "Wow, I'm seeing into the future." This Australian boy is so I can hear his voice. "Wow, I'm seeing into the future. I'm a time traveler."
Yes.
It was so cute. And so to notice that, and then if you're just guessing, we might say, that one wasn't orange, it was
Mhm,
green. Were
mhm.
you guessing with that one? And they go, yeah, yeah. Actually, I saw green and I second guessed myself and then I said
Oh,
orange. Like, okay, remember that. So
yeah.
like notice that. And then the next one, they get it correct. The next one,
Mhm.
they get it correct. It's like, okay, you're locked in. Remember that feeling. So this whole principle of not worrying about getting it correct or incorrect, just notice the feeling sense that you have, whether you're doing precognition, overthinking, second guessing, or indirect knowing, learn that. And then the three secrets to success with our kids that we always share. And there's some nuance that we build into this for the adult audience. The first, can I share our secrets to
Please.
success with this audience?
Yes. Thank you.
The first one, of course, is having fun,
Mhm.
because what we found with the blindfold vision, especially, it turns out the blindfold vision is almost like a biofeedback device.
Yeah.
It shows us so tangibly and visibly. The students will repeatedly tell us, wow, my window was just bright and open when I was having fun, and I got cranky and I was starting to try too hard, and it just closed down.
Mm.
So with the kids, we'll tell the parents, like, hey, can you take a break? Take a breather and tell them some funny dad jokes or even not so funny dad jokes. But as soon as the kid starts laughing, boom, what color is this? What color is this? What shape is this? What shape is this? And they just get right back into flow. The moment they're giggling in joy and laughter, boom, the whole thing opens back up. So, so having fun and being in the state of joy
Yeah.
is the most important state to
Mhm.
awaken these abilities. So that was number 1. Number 2, we always tell the kids to be comfortable. And, there's nuance to this one too, that we don't go so deep into it with the kids because we don't wanna, like, overcomplicate and overtalk, we want them to experience. But with your audience being adults, this be comfortable thing is really interesting. We put on the blindfold so that it's not so tight and not so loose, just at the right tightness, so that once you start playing the games, you literally forgot that you're wearing a blindfold. So if it's too pinchy or itchy or too
Mhm.
uncomfortable, it makes it hard to get into that state where you're just focusing on the targets and focusing on the games and seeing through the blindfold that we want you to forget that you were wearing a blindfold just from
Mhm.
having so much fun. And of course, with the kids, sometimes the kids are so well mannered that they're like afraid to ask for permission to go potty or
Oh,
whatever. We're like, just go potty. If you need to go potty, go potty. You're thirsty, go drink some water. Really listen to your body. Keep your body comfortable and take beautiful care of yourself because otherwise you're distracted from
mhm.
having to go potty or being thirsty or uncomfortable or pinchy or itchy. That's going to make it harder to tap into this flow. But with adults, here's the piece about being comfortable. We want to be really attuned to our body and physiology being in that flow state, but we want to work right at the edge of your comfort zone.
Mm.
Because once people start having one perception window opens, we find it really important to progress them to the next thing and the next thing and
Mm.
the next thing and the next thing to keep gradually stretching their abilities. And then when you're done for the day, just like a workout, listen to your body. You're done. Don't over push yourself. So, listening to that sweet spot of your growth edge is just like a PT, a sports trainer, an OT. So now, if you guys, those of you that are listening to this podcast, wanting to cultivate these abilities, being a really good coach of yourself to
Mhm.
work that line where you're stretching your comfort zone a little bit, but not too much and not too little to keep strengthening these muscles of expanded perception. Listening for that is very important to this.
Mm.
So with the kids, we just say, stay comfortable and listen to your body. But with adults, it's like, know yourself. Like
Yeah.
work the edge of your comfort zone to keep expanding these dormant muscles that we all have, but they've gotten atrophied. So you've got to be willing to exercise these muscles a little bit more each time.
Mhm.
So that's the second thing. So the first one, having fun. The second one, being comfortable. And the third one is to be curious and open to possibilities.
Yeah.
And we say these to the kids' classes, but I notice we have to say it even more to the adults because even the really open minded adults at our adult training programs bump into like their schooly upbringing.
Mhm.
Stuff like all these patterns will pop up where I'm sure you see this too in your trainings where people have you're in a group class and people have trauma from going to school where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I was just sitting here thinking, what if I'm the only one that can't do it?
Oh, yeah,
What
for
if I'm
sure.
the last one that do it? Or
Mhm.
so on. And it's like, wow, when did that program
Mhm.
get implanted? When did we get conditioned to be comparing ourselves to each other like that?
Yeah.
And so we hold a field of loving support for the tears to come.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tears, a lot of
Mm.
joy, a lot of laughter, but a lot of release of old programs and patterns that we bump into in this work. which makes it so much more rich and beautiful, you know.
It is really. I'm like, and so it's like with number 3, well, go back to number 1. Number 1 is have fun. We need to remember to get back to having fun so that because curiosity is a light, it's, it's an energy of levity. So the first one helps the third one. It's so true. Do you notice, especially I guess your adults, do your adults, maybe it's the children too, but I would feel like it's probably more the adults. Do they get really tired? Like when I'm doing remote viewing and we're going through quickly, they're like, "Oh, I'm so sleepy, I need a nap." And I'm
Yes.
like, "Yes, because you're again, their muscles, some of them are literal muscles. Like you're actually activating different physiology in order to be able to
Yes.
perceive differently, but it's also muscles, metaphorically, like your consciousness kinds of muscles and running your energy, running your consciousness in a different way. And it's kind of like working against resistance to an old pattern.
Yeah, I wrote a book called Super Wellness some years
Mm,
ago, and now it's going full circle because we're discovering that taking beautiful care of your health and physiology supports these expansive consciousness states. There's
yeah.
a lot of electromagnetic charge that our physiology has to be able to run to be
Mhm,
really effective at this work. Many people, myself included, when I go through fits and spurts of training myself, I get so thirsty that these kinds of glass bottles of water, I will literally drink 10 of these a day to even keep up with how much charge is trying to run
mhm,
through my system. And also, there's so many different things like the electrolytes, getting good
mhm,
quality sleep,
mhm.
not being overstimulated by media is a huge
Oh,
piece of it.
my
We are
goodness.
so overstimulated that these subtle senses, the original human blueprint, we wouldn't say that it was subtle. It's
Mhm,
not
right.
subtle, but it feels subtle relative to the over bombardment of stimulus we now have to deal with in our modern lives.
Yeah.
So, taking a step back, doing digital detox, like decreasing EMF, Wi Fi, all those devices signaling through your field just to kind of calm your energy systems to be able to attune to what may seem like subtle senses, but once you start entraining to it, is really not so subtle. Once you tap into that state and wake up these dormant muscles again, the subtle no longer feels subtle.
You know what, so I used to be in the culinary arts, and so I will tell people the subtlety that we're talking about. If you I don't know if you remember, if you drink tea or coffee now, but tasting it when you were a kid, and
Yes.
you're like, "Oh," all you could taste was bitterness, and it was just like an assault to your senses, but
Yeah.
if you acquire the taste, now you go, "Oh, there's cacao, and there's a little cardamom," and, these other more subtle, yet they're distinctive because you've acquired the capacity for
Yes.
it.
Yes. And for example, the intuitive touch sense,
Mhm.
people are often surprised that within a short, like one practice session, most people are able to, let's see if I can, like this is a bright yellow and this is a dark blue.
Mhm.
By touch, we can calibrate ourselves back and forth and feel like, wow, one feels thicker, one feels thinner, even though it's the same cardstock. One
Yeah.
feels heavier, one feels buoyant and lighter, one feels, all these things. And it gets to the point that it's almost as obvious as when I touch sandpaper,
Mhm.
when I touch a pillow.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I don't have to guess which one's the sandpaper, which one's the pillow.
Yeah.
So this is what's happening as we entrain these senses. We get we just wake up these what used to be subtle senses, just wake it
Mhm.
back up. And once you do, people are always shocked, like, am I cheating? How is this? It's getting really obvious. Am I doing something wrong? It's like, no, it's supposed to be like that.
I'm getting it right, I must be doing something wrong.
Right, right. That's
Oh.
one of the quizzical looks that often happens in our adult workshops. Like, shouldn't this be harder? Like, if you want, I suppose we can set it up, but it really is like this, you
Or
know.
we could lie to you, would that help? We'd lie about how well you're doing?
But it's also beautiful that people will be like get like 20 in a row correct, and then they get tired, and then suddenly they can't feel it.
Uh,
It's like, okay, just notice that.
Yeah.
that's okay too. It's like, wait, I just got 20 in a row correct. How I just lost it? Did I lose my superpowers? Like, no, you just need to rest
Yeah,
right
you need a
now.
break. Yeah, you need to you're learning how to toggle, because like you said, you can't have it on if you're gonna go to sleep. You need to learn you get to the place where it needs to be you feel masterful about it. But yeah, running energy in a whole different way, that's exhausting. That's definitely what do you think why aren't scientists flocking to it? I'm so glad you have some and some scientists and the gentleman who made the documentary, but what I mean, can't I feel like this can blow open the adherence to materialism in science. It has to because while I mean, I don't know, there's just so many people who can learn to cultivate it. Right?
Well, I am an experiencer and I'm a facilitator of these experiences. So
Mhm.
this is not my wheelhouse. All the nuances of how to create the perfect
Yeah.
scientifically controlled environment. Although I have done consulting with the CUSAC group and other in conversations with different groups of researchers. For a while there, I was kickstarting a research project and bumped into some of the challenges that we can share,
Mhm.
such as if you do group study, you need to have enough funding to have an IRB and whole, like review process that
Mm,
is
mhm.
pretty significant. So writing up individual cases about individuals doing this work is requires less complexity and budget. However,
Mm,
it doesn't have the number of data points to be
right.
as statistically significant as many people feel like they need to be convinced.
Mhm.
But the bigger issue is that most scientists are saying we want to have a really controlled study of Mindsight where it's not just all these different patches, but a giant shield in front. And it has to be controlled in such a way that the person's not allowed to wiggle and jiggle their head. You have to be super stiff, and it has to be a very clinically controlled environment. So with our children and families, we're getting these extremely like mind-blowing abilities opening up with the kids because we catch that right moment where they're in a flow state and we're like moms and dads challenge them to the next level, challenge them to the next, and they keep progressing, progressing, progressing. So there's a sweet spot moment where the kids get locked in and we progress them to a level where it's like, wow, this is really exceptional and advanced, but it's not like called upon on command. We
Right.
get them into the flow. It's like, let's try the next thing. We get them
Mhm.
into the next flow. Let's try the next thing until we get the kids to the point where they're doing a shield and seeing through, right? But they will get 3 or 4 correct, and then they're like, "Oh my god, did I get that correct?" And they start overthinking because
Yeah.
it's so exciting. It's like, "Okay, take a deep breath. Let's get back into the flow." So the scientists need exactly 20 iterations,
Mhm.
consistently 100% success in a controlled way. And it can't be the parents co-facilitating. It has to be a sterile lab coat experimenter who doesn't have joy in their heart and they're just all
Exactly.
in their head.
Yeah.
We know that our kids are successful because we do it in a community, in a playful,
Mhm.
relaxed way, and nourished by the field of love with all the moms and dads just all playing these games with all these kids. That field of coherence that we create together as a community. Same with the adults, the field of coherence that we create together as a community of beautiful, pure hearted souls coming together to explore and play, that's when the magic really shows itself. So, in a clinical, sterile environment, it's almost antithetical to this
Yeah.
work. So, it's a conundrum.
Well, I'm kind of feeling now as you're sharing this with me, why do we need science to sign off on it? We don't have scientists telling us that French is relevant. Speaking French is relevant. What if we keep it in communication and expression artistry? We don't need the validation from a clinical study for many of the things that are valuable to us that we utilize. So maybe that's the key is that we don't why do we try to force it into science or let have science force it into its model?
Yeah, that's a good us. Your audience probably are direct experiencers. They're not dealing with a ton of
We're not
doubts and
we're not
skepticism.
worrying. I'm
So
not gonna
you're
stop
just like, "Oh,
experiencing
just show
something.
me how to progress." Like, that's
Mhm.
probably your audience, like, "I
Yeah.
I just want to live this more beautiful state that my heart and soul already knows is possible. Just show me how to, like, optimize my training of myself," right?
Yes.
Like, that's probably the level of conversation that you and I often love to
Mhm.
engage in. But especially with the kids, I started feeling some amount of responsibility now that
Mm.
their aunties and uncles and neighbors and grandparents are educated into this so that we safeguard the sacredness of these beautiful gifts that are unlocking in our children.
Mhm.
So, in our kids program, about half of our program is educating and training the moms and dads. And we say, if there's anybody in your family system that might co facilitate this journey together with us, please ensure that they've watched the replay of our training so that they can accompany the kid in the right way,
Mhm.
because so much of it happens where the kids start opening, and we learn early on, if as they're starting to open their abilities they talk to a certain neighbor who's like, "Oh, you're just cheating, this is not possible," they will shut down very
Yeah.
quickly.
Right, right.
So the responsibility that as adults in this work that I feel is to support the scientists enough so that it creates a field of protection around the aunties, uncles, and neighbors in the
Mm.
community so that there is something to show them, like, hey, watch this documentary,
I
or
see.
read this book,
Yeah.
or look at this scientific paper. This is actually a legit phenomena. People with fancy pieces of paper on their wall have done deep dive, well budgeted study on this phenomena. Is a very real phenomena. It's not something fluffy or woo woo. Now back
Mhm.
off and let our kids stay beautiful and magical, please. you know so I think it serves that purpose. And it also serves the purpose that there are people that are genuine, open minded, curious skeptics that when they see a documentary, read a scientific paper,
Mhm.
read a book that consolidates a number of scientific data points and meta analysis of this field, they're like, okay, I had a hunch, but I'm so academic that I didn't let myself trust that hunch. And now that there's enough academic papers written about it, I'll go take a workshop and go into the direct experience. And then you're right. Once people experience it, they can never unknow it for themselves.
Now, I know that there are people listening who are curious. Are there people who just can't open this up? Are there people who, if they went to one of your workshops and they may, because I know that's what probably every person who signs up is like, "I'm gonna be the one person that it's not gonna work on, or I
Look at
can't do
look
it."
at our spiritual egos. It's like
I
either
know.
I'm the best or I'm so my
Those
ego needs to know that I'm the one worst person. Like,
those are the
can we just
options, best
can
or
we just
worst.
listen to that, right? Like, but we
Yeah.
all run that program from time to time. Like,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna be the one person that can't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Mhm.
I'm sorry to say you're not that special.
I love that.
Uh, so
So
far we've
people are
had people with aphantasia. That's
mhm,
the inability to visualize things.
mhm.
People that have told us, even if they meditate, go on prolonged retreat, take medicine journeys, ayahuasca, mushrooms, DMT, and so on, and still they didn't have a visual experience. Even those people were seeing that they can activate their mindsight blindfold vision state.
Wow. I have to say, I have noticed, probably because of that dang old internet thing, a lot of people are actually self-diagnosing themselves with aphantasia, saying, "I can't visualize," but I think that what it has to do is this it's actually a comparison thing with some people. Now, someone who's had all of those experiences and DMT and other sorts of things, then yes, but some people just think that they're supposed to be able to report something the way another person reports. But I love that Mindsight is something that a person with true aphantasia it's not as common as by the way, I wanna say to the audience, aphantasia, the inability to visualize is not as common as people think it is. However, so this is really amazing. Even people with properly experienced aphantasia have been opening this ability for themselves.
Yeah, and is it possible that some people can't do it? I want to address that question. People often ask me, well, in order to do these things, you have to really believe it, right? My answer to that is yes and no.
I think curiosity can be enough. That's what I've noticed for myself. I didn't believe that I could communicate with animals telepathically, but I was curious and it happened.
Ding,
So
ding, ding,
anyway.
ding, ding. That's exactly what we've discovered. People are
Mhm,
like, I don't know, but a lot of people sign up for our workshops convinced they can't do it, but they're
mhm,
like, I know somebody can do it. I believe enough that someone out of 20 or 30 people would be able to do it. And I just love to be in the room to see how that progression works. For out of just anthropological curiosity.
mhm,
To be in the workshop, to be like, what are the progressions of games that one plays to activate these abilities? And I wonder if I get like a little glimpse of one color, I'd be so happy. But those people are consistently getting activated too. So
mhm,
they came into just curious about the phenomenon, not thinking they could even do it. And we're consistently activating those people. So
right.
you're right. The belief, yes or no. If you're open minded and curious, just go for it and see what happens. And then at some point, enough data point accumulates, both in your witnessing all of your friends all around you and also your own direct experience and sharing and debriefing with each other. You start to realize that, okay, I just have to face facts now. It's
Mhm,
not a matter of belief. It's
yeah,
about facing facts and asking myself, okay, I just experienced that. What what else is possible?
yeah.
What are the implications of this?
I've
So it's
seen
a
it so
beautiful, yeah, it's a beautiful journey of magic carpet ride that we're all on together.
I've seen it so many times, and I actually get really excited, like, when I'm training someone to do an intuitive reading or something like that, and it's the first time that they're gonna actually practice with someone, and they're gonna demonstrate it, and they're so nervous, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is gonna be so good because you so don't think you can do it." But you're gonna let yourself be open to it, and it's like I get excited because of their resistance, because I know that's about to pop right off, and it's so beautiful.
That's really profound what you said, because the people that have the resistance, when that unlocks, a floodgate of all these
Yes.
beautiful possibilities always opens up for those people. And
Mhm.
it's like more exciting and more interesting and dramatic. It's the same as how those of us that have been doing inner work on ourselves, have you noticed how if you do enough work on yourself, you almost get excited when you get triggered by something?
So
Because
good.
like,
You're like,
if I
"Ooh, it's gonna
sit
get so
in
good."
yeah, if I sit in that trigger and choose to work with it lovingly and dissolve that
Mhm,
pattern that led to the trigger,
mhm,
a whole world of so much more love, so much more wisdom, so much more beauty opens up to me when what I thaw out that frozen energy
mhm.
pattern of
Yeah,
that trigger or that limitation program. You
mhm.
liberate so much energy and so many possibilities. So yeah, we there's this sweet spot of people that are like kind of doubtful, you know, like kind of believe but don't believe, and where it's like, oh, it's so juicy to do that work together.
What do you think the implications for, like, humanity is? Because the work that you're doing, it's growing and growing, isn't it? It's growing a lot. There are a lot of people that are, and you're probably not the only ones doing it, whether in the United States or across the world,
That's
and I
true.
just know that it's growing. So what do you feel the implications are for us?
Yeah, first of all, I want to just acknowledge and honor all the incredible pioneers that are doing this kind of work in all the fields in telepathy and remote viewing
Mhm.
and expansive human abilities, the Mindsight. There's so many beautiful souls that are taking on different pieces of the puzzle of this grand expansion and awakening that we're all going through. So the approach that we've been taking is to focus less on the ability, but more on what it means to be a human.
Mm,
And so,
beautiful.
in all the wisdom traditions, it has always been understood, the yogis call them siddhis. These
Mhm.
expansive abilities, they naturally spontaneously show themselves when you cultivate your inner state of being. And it's always been shared across the yogic traditions, the Chinese Taoist Qigong traditions, the all kinds of indigenous traditions. Lately, I've been doing some ancient Egyptian
Mm,
root
mhm.
practices that predate yoga and Taoist Qigong. In those traditions too, that is understood, you cultivate your inner state to a certain point that spontaneously many of these abilities will just pop and open up for you.
Yes.
But if we get our egos really hooked into the ability, it can detract from our journey of growth and evolution.
Mhm.
But if we just allow it to be a natural flourishing and expression of our inner cultivation, then it can keep expanding and expanding. We're not getting too obsessed with these abilities having to manifest in a certain way.
Mm.
So that's something that's advice that I recommend we all heed.
Yeah.
To, of course, it's fun to be telepathic. Of course, it's fun to be able to see blindfolded. But on the surface, some of this stuff can seem kind of like, a parlor trick. I know
It
your audience knows that it's so much deeper than that, but I'm I'm cautious about it being presented like a parlor trick.
Well, I've always been since I started, now about 12 years ago, developing my abilities, and I first felt very resistant, like people wanting it to be a parlor trick, wanting me to do something, and I really, because to me it's not honoring the intimacy, the sacredness,
Yes.
and uh, I guess maybe you can share a little bit of that. It is fun, and I think fun is reason enough. This is what I tell people, do it because it's fun. That is a full of life intention. And what are some other ways? Obviously, Dahlia is working with adult blind people, amazing. And, I mean, I can just sense I almost can't put words to how much more there is because I feel like I don't know yet, but I can feel the value of what these kinds of abilities fully, like, something as present as seeing with a blindfold on, seeing without your physical eyes. Do you
Yeah.
have any words for what else besides fun?
I I will I
Seriously?
will I will do my best. How I met Dahlia
Mhm.
was, at that point I was already had trained a couple hundred children. I don't know exactly how many, but I was well into this body of work, working with children and families and taking this different approach where we really engage the whole family in the journey of playfulness and mutual love and coherence, and getting all the kids and families together in the whole community and really seeing how there's an exponential synergistic field effect we're creating as a giant community doing this work. So Lidu, Dahlia's telepathic savant daughter, had reached out through mutual friends over and over again until this really kind, gentle soul, Victoria, she's so sweet. So she's soft spoken and very kind, very sweet, but she was like emailing me and texting me and calling me and voice noting me and really consistent and persistent. I was like, okay, she's being a little pushy for her character. What's going on? And so there was this message from Lidu that she has spelled out on a spelling board with her mom to say, I need to meet Dr. Edith. She's one of these
Mm.
ladies that is going to bring telepathy to the world. I have to talk to her. And I had chills. I didn't at that time really understand how intimately connected
Yeah.
Mindsight, remote viewing, blindfold vision, that these areas of human expression are very intertwined. Um, but as soon as I said yes, she jumped into my dreams and started communicating with
Oh,
me.
that's
And I
beautiful.
hop on a call with Dahlia, and it turns out she was refining this really wonderful, refined protocol for working with blind adults. And I had started my Mindsight opening already, and I flew out to her to train with her to see if we could do some collaborations together. And within 2 short days, she took my abilities to a whole different league that
Wow.
I couldn't tap into for all my previous training myself. She just quickened the path so much. And the methodology, we started sharing notes about our kids program and her training with adults and how to keep distilling it, the essence, like really refining it, because, you know, like, yeah, many people can do this with weeks or months of training, but could they do this in just 3 short days? And
Mm.
we discovered the answer was yes. And within those 3 short days, not just the mind sight, but the intuitive touch, intuitive hearing, the other senses. And lately we've scaffolded in different telekinesis practices and energy healing practices and spoon bending and so much fun. We have so much fun in these gatherings. Well, Lidu has consistently coached us through our dreams, and also she's present at all these adult training gatherings, telepathically guiding all of us and teaching us a progression into more and more telepathic training. And there's just a more refined, elegant approach to how these skills weave together.
Yeah.
And so, talking about Sean, he's the blind man that trains with us at these gatherings, and he's featured in 1000 Blindfolds together with Dalia. And he's such a beautiful soul. And he said, obviously, as a blind man, the capacity to walk around my house and find my keys and find my phone and go into town and not be afraid that I'll just be tripping on things. You know, a lot of blind people have a very small life because it's hard to just even go out and do stuff. So he's already been way more courageous than most. He's been willing to get on an airplane, travel, go to strange places because he knows so deeply that on some level he can activate these abilities, and he feels so aligned with this work. He says, yes, as a blind man, it's wonderful to be able to see my environment, to find my keys and find my cell phone. But even for me, the deeper essence of this work of inner attunement, inner alignment, truth discernment, living a life path where you know what a yes feels like and what a no feels like, and to live in deep alignment with that inner yeses and nos. I'm paraphrasing. You should interview him, maybe.
Okay,
He's such a
I will.
beautiful soul, beautiful, so eloquent and so wise, John. So I don't want to misquote him, but that's the essence of what he shared with me that moved me so much, you know. Even for a blind man, that inner attunement and inner alignment is by far a more huge gift of this work. And Lidu also shares that the real reason to tap into telepathy is this, that we are so solid in our inner attunement and our capacity to be telepathic with our teams, with our guides, and to access the full field of information, so that there's no more, you know, we waste so much energy second guessing ourselves, like not listening to our intuitive guidance. But what happens if, well, with your audience being intuitively aware, I'm sure every one of us have had those intuitive hunches, and then we didn't listen to it, and then we did something, we're like, dang it, I should have listened to that hunch. Now I got to learn it the hard way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what happens if those hunches aren't hunchy anymore? That
Mhm.
is a clarity of inner knowing. We liberate so much energy and so
Yes.
much time that we can just live a life in deep alignment with our soul's purpose, and to be able to be attuned with one another in such a beautiful way where our communications are far more harmonious and clean and
Mhm.
clear.
Mhm.
There's less miscommunications, misunderstanding, right? And our
Mhm.
discernment is so good that we'll never give corrupt politicians like the time of day, because
There
we just see right through all of
you
it, and
nailed
we
it.
just, yeah, we just laugh at it, right? So in that way, almost overnight, we'll transition into
Yes.
a more beautiful world.
Yes.
Every human being attuned and aligned with truth, and coherent and peaceful in our interactions with each other, able to access a higher level of cosmic wisdom while embodied in the physical earth plane.
Mhm.
What a beautiful world we would create. So that's
Coherence.
really
Yeah.
this is really the essence of the work. And the party trick part, yeah, it's fun. We have a
It's
lot of
fun.
fun,
Yeah.
you know. But this is how we create world peace.
Beautiful. Wow, yes, I wanna interview Sean, and yes, I'm gonna reach out to Dahlia too, and wow, how beautiful that Lidu is guiding everyone, so, I just love it so much, but I want you to tell everyone about your upcoming workshops and what you how they can get involved in your trainings. Do you
Thank
have
you so
time for that?
much.
Yeah.
To the audience listening, if you're still in this conversation, you're our people. I'm so happy we just cut right to the chase
Yeah.
and went deep in this conversation. Really appreciate that. So if you guys are resonating with this level of the conversation and this level of exploration, um, my website is dredithubuntu.com. I trust that's going to be in the show notes
Yes,
somewhere.
absolutely.
But
Everything in the show notes.
specifically about the Mindsight blindfold training programs, which is now expanding into including telekinesis, psychokinesis, and intro to telepathy, and kind of like how these worlds can bridge, how we integrate these abilities together, and how they support each other. Um, that work, you can shortcut to that part of my website by going to blindfold.vision. So http://blindfold.vision. And you can see what we're doing with the kids, what we're doing with the adults, and soon to come, what we're doing to button up the facilitator methodologies so that those of you that have communities, kids, and families locally that you want to work with will start to introduce facilitator training into the world too. And I'm
Amazing.
also working on a book. I'd love if you guys want to support the book writing process. I'd love to hear from you because I could really use some support. I'm a single mom with 2 kids, homeschooling, doing my best, building up our team, researching all of this. So I just appreciate all the support to bring this work into the world in the most beautiful way.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And of course, do check out whenever it is that you're listening to this, because there are very soon upcoming workshops in August and September as we are actually publishing this. And I thank you so much, Dr. Edith, for coming on the show. And thank you for the beautiful vision that you're not only holding, that's a pun, the vision that you're holding, but that you are, again, pioneering, you're holding so deeply this space for us. And just thank you for the work that you're doing on our beautiful world.
Yeah, time-wise, thank you for reminding me, Tricia. So, our adult training,
Yeah.
we have August 17th, 18th, 19th,
Mm,
an adult training in San Rafael, California. I should have
mhm,
mentioned that for
mm.
anyone interested.
Oh,
In
good.
September 17th, 18th, 19th, we're in Austin for another training. And then in November, we'll be back in Northern California again. And we also have kids programs throughout the year. There will be another one in the fall. So, yeah,
Amazing.
please come play.
Thank you so much. You're just such a joy to be able to have on the show. And again, thank you for everything that you're doing. Many blessings to you and your family.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And of course, check the show notes for all of the ways that you might be able to follow Dr. Edith's work and the workshops that might be coming to your area, the different trainings of the Luminous Blindfold Training programs that she offers. Also, check the show notes for the programs that I offer for multidimensional mediumship, animal communication, psi skills development, which includes telepathy and remote viewing, and just go down the rabbit hole and begin to cultivate these abilities for yourself because they're available to you. I also hope that you will let this conversation expand to those who you feel like could really benefit by it, who feel the resonance with it, even spark curiosity. And thank you so much for shining your light on our beautiful world. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.